Hey YouTube, this is City Prepping. I recently did a video last Friday about the government shutdown, and we're now obviously continuing on the government shutdown without really what seems to be any end in sight. As this continues on, I reached out to the community to ask people through a poll what their opinion is of how this will actually end, what's going to be the end result of all this. And so what I'll do in this video is I'll share some of the results from the community. I was kind of surprised by some of the results, some of the feedback. It wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be, but it gave me a lot of insight. And before I jump in, let me just say I did a video yesterday about my time. I'll be at SHOT Show for Thursday and Friday this week in Las Vegas. So if you're able to make it, or if you're there, I'd definitely love to meet up with you. I'll post a link in the cards up above and in the description section if you want to check out that information. So without further ado, what I'll do is I'll jump into taking a look at this poll, seeing what the results were. We'll read some of the comments. I'll go through some of these, as I always enjoy getting your feedback, your insight from the community. And we'll talk a little about this and what this really means as far as this government shutdown situation. So I'll post a link in the description section below to the poll if you want to go check it out for yourself. All right, so the question is, how do you think this government shutdown will end? And it says, my latest videos present some possibilities and the comments were varied, but what do you think is a realistic outcome? Now, the number one vote, 54%, was politicians will find a compromise and life will return to normal. Again, I was a little surprised by this. It shows that there are actually a lot of optimists, what appears to be optimists within the prepper community. 54% is a pretty high number for one particular vote. My take on that is I think they're right. I think at the end of the day, if I were to have to put a bet on this, I would probably say, yeah, it's going to end. And what I would hope would be, the politicians getting together and finding a solution. But having said that, I think 50%, I would probably put my numbers closer to 45% personally. I think I'm a little more optimistic than 50% or 54%, but still, it seems like the rest of the community is a little more optimistic. The number two, the tie for second place was neither side will budge and this thing will end a catastrophe and people will riot in the streets, chaos will ensue. So those both tie for number two. Number three, or in third place was a major event. For example, I should have put E.G instead of I.E. One of the subscribers point that out. A major event, terrorism will happen, forcing a reopen. Again, I presented in that video the possibility that since our guards are down, so to speak, there is a possibility we'll see something like this. And then the last one is 9%. America will collapse, ushering in a great reset in our country. Again, I was based off some of the comments on the video. Yeah, I saw a lot of that. People were kind of betting on or hoping that America will collapse. I did a whole video about that not too long ago. It's a part two to my time, what I learned in Afghanistan. And again, I'll put a link to that in the cards up above and also in the description section. Be careful what you ask for. Let me just put it that way. So the comments, again, are pretty insightful, and I'll read through some of these as time permits here. I don't want to make this video go much more than probably 15 minutes. But what I did is I just sorted by what the most popular are. Let me just do that again. Sort by top comments. So here we go. Jeff Allen wrote, where's the poll option of nothing will happen? And a lot of people voted that, and I just simply said, hey, that would be the politicians will find a compromise and life will return to normal. I guess I could have taken it one step further and said nothing. So Jeff Allen's, I guess, is of the opinion that nothing will happen. So again, that is very reflective in the sentiment here based on the polling numbers. The second one is, let's see, this one has got 30 upvotes, and this one says second vote. I think the government on both sides is playing a dangerous and stupid game with people's lives, and it's only a matter of time before they either come to their senses or something happens that forces the country to unify itself again temporarily. What I'm curious about is what is all this BS the government is cooking up and that they don't want us to smell cooking. I'm sure that's a reference to The Rock. I feel like this shutdown business is a smokescreen to keep people occupied and divided. Yeah, I think there's definitely some insight into that. There's a lot of things going on right now in our country, and you have to wonder sometimes, is what we're seeing playing out really what's happening? Is there something else? And again, it doesn't have to be some, horrible, like situation. I think there's obviously a lot that goes on in politics behind the scenes that we never see, a lot of jostling for power. If you've ever watched the show, The House of Cards, highly recommend it. At least the first several seasons. This last one I didn't really enjoy too much, but you kind of get a behind the scenes, and I know it's fiction, but a lot of the storyline was ripped from the headlines. You see a lot of parallels to what actually happens in Washington. And a lot of times what you and I see is not really what's happening. Jeff V wrote, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Well, I think that it's kind of the mantra of preppers. Again, my mentality at the moment is I really am hoping for the best in this situation, but there is a possibility, I would say, that one of the few times where I looked at things and said, hey, there is what I would consider a strong possibility of things not going so well. And again, that's why we do what we do. I don't think it's fear to say, I'd like to be prepared. I think it's just wisdom. The next one is Florida guy, 26 upvotes, and he just simply said, hungry people equal bad outcome. Yeah. I'm sure a lot of y'all are seeing information that's out there about the food stamps that are no longer going to be issued here pretty soon. There's some serious, that could have a serious impact if you have a huge community of people that are dependent on getting support from the government for food, and that's no longer available. Usually that doesn't end so well. Now, again, I don't think that's by any means a large percentage of the American economy, but it's enough that could be problematic. Aristotle Vargo said, this is a distraction for something else. Something is coming. Also, God bless. Your videos are awesome. Well, thank you, Aristotle. Yeah, it kind of echoes the same sentiment that was up here about, something else. James pointing out that there's probably more to than what we're actually seeing. And again, I'm not a conspiracy theory guy. I don't really get wrapped up in, again, in saying that doesn't imply that I just take everything for granted or just take everything at face value. I know there are things that, again, happen behind the scenes that you and I are not privy to. But I don't know. I really don't know. That one's kind of the big question mark. What are we seeing? And I don't think it's some major thing, but it could be just simply politicians playing behind the scenes for power. Jay Will said, this is a ridiculous poll. The more we are able to live and conduct our lives with less government, the more freedom we have. The shutdown has not affected me at all, and I doubt very much that it has affected anyone here. If you're told about it via TV, you would probably not even know the difference. Government is a problem, and less of it is great. Jay, I used to have the same mentality, and it wasn't until I lived in another country where, again, I've done videos on my time in Afghanistan doing NGO work, and I lived in the culture for 3 months. And seeing what it's like to have nothing as far as infrastructure or government oversight. And again, I know we as preppers hate the word government oversight, and I do too, to a point. But infrastructure, I'm not opposed to see government regulation. Look at FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. Again, I don't obviously agree with everything about it, but to have food regulation and standards, I personally don't have issues with that because that helps ensure that companies that produce food are going to be held to a standard if they're producing anything that could be, could do damage to me, or my family. So it's hard sometimes. We throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? If we just assume it's all bad. There are aspects of the government that I appreciate, but I think what Jay is probably trying to communicate is what many in the community feel is that there's overreach. Let me just continue on. OG Dweeb said, we're going to see how far they can push people. I suspect they're going to use this as a dry run to know what to expect when the bottom falls out. We can't just keep on printing money. Yeah, that is a possibility, a dry run. I don't know. That's kind of an interesting perspective. I guess I'd never really considered it that way. Judy said, Trump doesn't give a darn about the people. He's out to destroy us all. Maybe that's what Trump and his best friend Putin have planned. That's probably the big secret. I know I shouldn't be laughing at that, but it's funny, getting, again, different people's insight. I don't think it just extends to Trump not caring. I think it's overall politics. I think, what you're seeing again right now is it extends to both sides of the aisle, not only, being on the Republican, but I see this as Democratic side as well. As it doesn't seem that people want to budge because they know politically there's going to be more fallout if they give than what it means to help take care of America. Let me move on. Prepper0331 says, or after EBT are cut off long enough, people will riot. Again, that was one of the items that was mentioned earlier about, if food stamps run out, what will that mean? Abba's chosen. Welcome to the new world order. I don't know if that's quite the case. I don't know if that's, I don't know if that's quite the direction we're trying to steer things, where this government is trying to steer it. Jesse Guzman, let's see, he said, I voted for people will riot because I'm under the impression that the food stamp program will cut out will run out of funding in a week or two, and since the House Majority Leader rejected the president's public offer before he even spoke about it on TV, I don't see compromising happening anytime soon. Yeah, I do agree with you on that point. Again, everybody's dug in their heels on this. Eventually, all departments will run out of funding, and the people will find themselves under the potential threat of unemployment. So you take those rolled food stamps, 42 million. I'd be interested to see if that's really the case. I've never fact-checked that number. I'm just curious, really quick, how many Americans are on food stamps? Because if it is really 42 million, how many snaps? Let's see. Oh, wow, 44. That's 2016. That might even be a higher number right now. Here we go. How many people are on food stamps? 20%? Wow. Well, oh, that's by state. I think that's Oregon. So 44, and there's what, I think 330 million Americans divided by 42. Oops, did I do it the back? I did it backwards. It should have been 42 divided by 330. So about 12%. Okay, still a high number of American population is on food stamps. Let's see, reading on, and those unemployed by the federal government, about 3 million minus the 500,000 or so, post office, 2.5 million. That means that 45 million people relying on the government to send them a check of some sort will suddenly find themselves out of money, with that, out of options. Yeah, that's not going to be pretty. I mean, you got to think about what if this continued on to our military. I mean, I know the Coast Guard's impacted by this. I have friends that are Border Patrol agents. They're feeling the pain. They're not getting paid. So yeah, if this continues on, I don't know. Jonathan Hernandez says, well as being with clairvoyant abilities, nobody will budge. Trump is the latest president of humanity. Is the last president of humanity. The collective has focused their energy on a civil war causing chaos in the streets. Race against race, survival of the fittest. Those who have studied and prepared will only survive, while the rest of humanity will either have to unite as one conscious collective, fix what is broken without government, or let history repeat itself for another 650,000 years against slaves. The future is written by one's fast. Okay. Only false ideals separate you on earth. Okay. Well, interesting perspective, a lot of insight. Jonathan's definitely of the perspective that, yeah, it's going to get bad and we're going to see civil war. Let's see. Dr. Zaius, how about Trump caves? Well, that's the question. Is he going to out of all of the possibilities, honestly, I think that's probably the last on the list that I'm assuming will happen. I just don't see him giving in. That's not a statement about who he is or anything. I'm not trying to take a political stand against him as much as I'm just saying I just don't see him backing down. I just don't see that in his personality. Let's read on. Terry RGS said, I think I need to choose more than one, like first, second, third, fourth, fifth. They'll argue until there's a catastrophe, leaving defense weak, followed by rioting, collapse, making a terrorist attack a piece of cake. As for ushering anything good, no. Yeah, doesn't seem like she's, or Terry, I'm assuming it's a woman. I don't think she really has a very positive view of what's coming down the pipe. Red Saint Gaming, a lot of people are being hopeful with that 51%. Yeah, it's up to 54% now, Red. So we are trying to, I think we're all just hoping for the best in this situation here. DDX, just be ready. Yeah. Tia J, local governments, food banks will work out a way to give free food to federal workers. Yeah, I've started to see reports of that. That restaurants are even offering, government employees that are affected, food. Let's see. Let me read through a couple more here. I don't want to go past 15 minutes, but there's some good information. Corps Commander, keep this shut down. The longer the feds stay out of commission, the more people will realize the government is bloated. Most of the functions constitutionally belong to the states or lower government anyways. Again, we talked about that point earlier. I'm not an advocate for complete government overthrow. Again, if that were to play out, it would be horrible. But I wouldn't mind seeing a little trimming. Having said that, everybody's kind of got a different angle on that one or what they want to see. Let me read through these last and then I'll stop on that one. Hash Factory. There's a lot more going on politically and militarily than the shutdown. Shutdown is only one symptom of being under the thumb of a strongman. Seems like he is trying to make something happen. I'm assuming he's referring to Trump by strongman. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Again, in these situations, it feels like you're only seeing what they want you to see. And I don't mean that in a conspiracy like there's some secret organization, but a lot of times in politics, so much jostling is always happening behind the scenes to try to position people in a better position, politically. So I don't know. That's where I'm not overly optimistic that this is going to be resolved. J, I won't even pronounce that. Schmick. Choice number 2 is possible. However, if it does, it will be a false flag put on plan by the Dems left. Choices 1, 3, this is what I think will happen. President will declare national emergency. Yeah, I think that is a real possibility. He keeps floating that on the interviews whenever they're asking about it. At which point we'll have to put the Army Corps of Engineers build on the wall. Let's see. Sounds like he's looking for things to get overthrown to a point. Let me read 2 more. IP freely. Answer F. This is tactical distraction for military tribunal land, an opportunity to lay off thousands of useless government workers and shrink the government. There may not be some bad in that. I can see that riots will begin. And the last one is Tato lingo. When cities are on fire, state of emergency, budget access to wall funding, okay to reopen. So anyway, there you go. I'll put a link to this if you want to read more on these or check them out or see the poll or even vote. Again, I'd be curious to hear your feedback in the comments section below. I forget what day are we at actually? What day of the government? I didn't even announce that at the beginning of the video. I'm kind of curious what day we're at. We are government, Anyway, I'm assuming we're around about 29, 30, somewhere in there. So it's dragging on and people are feeling the pain. I'd be curious to get your feedback and your thoughts. If you have a second, post in the comments section. Again, I'm watching this very closely. Am I nervous or worried that something major is about to happen? Not so much as I'm just kind of concerned how this is playing out. But as always, I'd love to get your feedback. If you enjoy this video, click the like button, share on social media. And as always, be safe out there.